Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Engin Aysun. I'm the Director of Citizenship. What is it again? It's the Center for Citizenship, Identities and Governance. You know, amongst ourselves, I'm so used to calling it CSIG. When I need to spell it out, I draw a blank. So that's what happened. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted that you're here. We have Wendy Brown, who has actually participated in the inaugural seminar, inaugural keynote lecture of the center. And we're really delighted to have her back. Just to give you a couple of words on what we're trying to do with this series. This also is an inaugural series. Many of you know that we have a series of events called CSIG forums that take place once a month. We bring together various strands, different research programs within the center in conversation with one another with special seminars, workshops, and so on. This year we have decided to add a series, a keynote lecture series that are hosted and sponsored by each of our research programs of the kind that bring them into conversation in the context of a prominent and distinguished speaker from elsewhere. So this is, conversation is ours, but it's aided by those who are doing work that has affinities with the kind of work we do, but nonetheless from elsewhere. And that's what we want to do with this series. On our website, you can find all the information. And no one would really fit that description better than Wendy for the kind of work she does and the affinity she has with the work we do at the center. But I will leave it to Janet to introduce Wendy, my colleague Janet Newman, and the discussants. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks, Engin. I don't know that there's much more to say because Engin's already talked about the distinguished place and role of Wendy and how pleased we are to see her. Wendy is Heller Professor of Political Science at the University of California, Berkeley, and also holds many distinguished fellowships. But beyond that, she's been a heroine, I think, to me and others who've been constantly inspired by her books, from her early work on the feminist reading of political economy, which I was very glad to see, through books called States of Injury, Power and Freedom in Late Modernity, Politics Out of History, a collection of essays called Edgework, and her most recent book, Regulating Aversion, Tolerance in an Age of Identity and Empire. And as you can tell from the titles, all of those speak to a very broad canvas and all touch on what I really like about Wendy's work is its engagement with the contemporary key issues of our time. All of her work touches on issues of justice, knowledge, power, religion, and identity. And as Engin said, Wendy came over first to the Open University, I think, to speak at the launch of CSIG. We can now call it CSIG. And she's one of the few scholars that I can think of who can really speak across our three core concepts of citizenship, identity, and governance, and who, as she told us very clearly at the launch, can explore how each of those concepts shifts as they're brought into alignment and juxtaposition with the others. I'd also like to welcome our two discussants, who I will introduce after Wendy speaks, if that's okay. Wendy's lecture is titled Wall States, Waning Sovereignty, and I look forward very much to hearing it.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. I love coming to the Open University. I feel like citizens' identities and governance is the locutionary and rhetorical home that makes most sense of me, of anything I've ever seen in a center. So I'm not going to call it CSIG because I actually need all of those terms to be intelligible to myself. I've watched the work of the center with enormous respect and appreciation and learning. So I'm really delighted to be invited back by Janet, by Engin, and to offer a bit of my work today. So I will be talking from a book that will soon be in the world. It's not quite finished, but it's very, very close. And I'll just give you some pieces of it to draw some of the large themes that the book engages. What we have, I just need to check something here to make sure. Yeah, okay. Just need to make sure the technology is doing for us what it's supposed to do. What we have come to call globalization harbors fundamental tensions between opening and barricading, between fusion and partition, between erasure and reinscription. These are tensions that materialize as increasingly liberalized borders on the one hand, and the devotion of unprecedented funds, energies, and technologies to border fortification on the other. Globalization also features a host of related tensions between global networks and local nationalisms, between virtual and physical power, between private appropriation and open sourcing, secrecy and transparency, territorialization and deterritorialization. One place that these tensions nest is in the new walls striating the globe. These are walls whose frenzied building was underway even as the crumbling of the old bastilles of the Cold War Europe, that is the Berlin Wall, and apartheid South Africa, even as these walls coming down was a matter for international celebration. Best known are the United States-built behemoth along its southern border and the Israeli-built wall snaking through the West Bank. These are two projects that share technology, subcontracting, and also reference each other for legitimacy. But there are many others. Post-apartheid South Africa features a complex internal maze of walls and checkpoints and maintains a controversial electrified security barrier on its Zimbabwe border. Saudi Arabia recently finished constructing a 10-foot-high concrete post structure along its border with Yemen, which will be followed by a wall at the Iraq border, and which in turn Saudis say may be followed by walling their entire country. Longer, though cruder walls have been built by India along its borders with Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, and Kashmir. Though the crudeness of these walls should not deceive, India has mined the land space between double layers of barbed and concertina wire at the Indo-Kashmir border. In the context of a land dispute, but officially built in the name of interdicting Islamic terrorists, Uzbekistan fenced out Kyrgyzstan in 1999 and Afghanistan in 2001, but Turkmenistan is now fencing out Uzbekistan. Botswana initiated the building of an electric fence along its border with Zimbabwe in 2003, ostensibly to stop the spread of foot and mouth disease among livestock, but aimed at interdicting Zimbabwe humans as well. In response to the South Thailand insurgency and to deter illegal immigration and smuggling, Thailand and Malaysia have cooperated to build 10 kilometers of concrete and steel border wall. Then there's the wall between Egypt and Gaza, brought to the world's attention when it was breached in January 2008 by Gazans seeking food, fuel, and other domestic goods. Iran is walling out Pakistan. Brunei is walling out immigrants and smugglers from Limbang. China is walling out North Korea to stem the tide of Korean refugees, but parallel to one section of that wall, North Korea is also walling out China. There are also walls within walls. Gated communities in the U.S. have sprung up everywhere, but are especially plentiful in Southern California and Arizona communities near the wall with Mexico. Walls around Israeli settlements in the West Bank abut the security barrier. If you look closely, you can actually see 5 sets of walls between the camera and the settlement. Walls around Israeli settlements in the West Bank abut the security barrier, as walls around the disputed Museum of Tolerance site in Jerusalem nestle next to walls partitioning that city. Bethlehem has been completely sealed off from Jerusalem. The European Union sponsors triple-layer walls around Spanish enclaves in Morocco, even as Morocco itself maintains a lengthy berm aimed at securing the resources of the long-disputed Western Sahara.